Welcome to Mastery Talks. I'm your host, Nathan Culver, and I'm excited to be having this conversation. And so we are having a conversation that I think is very needed and very important concerning, the COVID-19 crisis that we're facing globally, how it's affecting our family dynamics and marriages, relationships, and all that kind of stuff. And today, my Mastery Talks audience, I have two guests with me, but I'm gonna shout out the first guest that I want to celebrate first. This is the first time my wife is on a Mastery Talk conversation with us. So listen, those of you who listen to Mastery Talks or watching, I want you to nudge her about this other conversation we need to have about education, because she's dragging her feet on that. But we're going to talk about today how to cope in this crisis, given the circumstances that we're facing. So my wife and I are here just representing married couples and families and how we're dealing with it. And we have another special guest with us, Prunella Harris, who is someone both my wife and I have known for a while, my wife longer than I. And so she is a therapist and has worked in the mental health field for some time, and has a company where she provides this service called Restorative Family Services. She'll tell us a little bit more about that in this conversation. So welcome, Mrs. Culver and Prunella. Welcome to our platform today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
No problem. So yes, Prunella, would you please just talk to us a little bit about what you do and who you are, and introduce yourself to our Mastery Talks audience.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Culver, for having me on again. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I am also the CEO and owner of Restorative Family Services, where we provide individual, family, and group therapy across the lifespan for children as young as 6 and adults as old as 65. We do couples therapy, so I'm excited about this topic. I'm really passionate about families and couples. So thanks for having me and inviting me to talk to you today.
We are so happy to have you today. So I'm going to kick this off, and then I'm going to bounce this ball to my wife to give her perspective, a little bit of her perspective, and maybe whatever she wants to add to what I'm saying. Given this, right now, every major city, even around the world, is just kind of shut down. Everybody's in quarantine right now and trying to cope with the situation. And so, couples are now, locked in the home together, families, everybody. And so normally, we're out, we're going to work, we're engaging in that way. We get, at least, 4 to 8 hours apart from each other, and then we're back home. And now we're faced with, I think now for us, maybe the second or the third, just probably third week or fourth week now, that we have been quarantined and we've been home and we're seeing each other all day, every day. And it raises some tension, underlying issues that haven't been addressed are now coming to the surface because we're in close proximity. What do couples do about this? And, Kina, if you want to add something to this, please do.
I think it depends on the type of couple. So if you have a relationship where you guys are already used to being open and honest, I don't think you have some of the same struggles that you would if you are how we used to be early on, so mindful of someone's feelings, not wanting to really share the truth about how you really feel. So I think as we personally have developed in our relationship, being more comfortable where, yes, I'm mindful of your feelings, but not to the point where I am going to not express what I really feel. I think once you get to that point, then being in the close quarters doesn't have the same impact that it would if you're a person that's not readily expressing how you really feel. I think that's an important aspect.
So, go ahead, Prunella.
Both of you hit on some very important concept, and they're all centering around communication. And there's communication which we express, and then there's the communication which we just feel and hold in, and we just expect the person to understand and know.
Right.
Dr. Culver, when you talked about being stuck in the home and having a routine that is turned upside down, um, that is exactly what is going on. And it's not just for you from your perspective, but it's also for your wife's, your children's perspective. So just think about this. This is a melting pot of like anxiety. Everyone is got their routine turned upside down. You know, the kids are figuring out that they can't go to school. Their social life is turned upside down now. They have all this energy and they're just like home. And then you have to figure out how to homeschool, and then which one is going to be working while the other one is homeschooling. And so it is a chaotic mess. And if you don't have the communicative skills, if you haven't been working on that to express all those stressors, you know, it's easy just to feel just in your feelings about them, and just really hold that in and not be able to communicate. Or you might not even know what's going on. I'm mad. I don't know why I'm mad. I'm just angry. It's just too much going on. It's just, you know. So being able to kind of sit with yourself first, create that space, like, you know what, there's a lot of moving pieces. I don't quite know what's going on. I don't know if it's you or me. Let me just have a moment to just figure out what is going on, and I'll come back to you, and we'll be able to talk about this and then come up with a plan. See, communication is just, it's good to communicate, but now we have to move. We have to actually put something in place so that we can function better and not in crisis, but we can kind of adapt to what it is going on and be able to come up with a plan. Okay, I'm a quarterback for you while you go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to need a break, and you're going to come give me a break. But then now we figured out how to work as a team.
Wow.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, because you brought up something that made me think. So you're saying taking the time for you. So in our house, you know, our kids, we have 15, then the 2 10-year-olds, and then the 3-year-old. And so, you know, the preteens and the teenager, they're able to go and be, you know, alone and do whatever they want to do. But then the 3-year-old is like attached, like glued to me. So it could be me and, you know, Nathan in the same place, but he'll come and sit like on me, not just near me, like on me, and hang around my neck and be on my back. And so how do you get that space without even making someone feel rejected? You know, making sure, because, you know, you have a child here, and so you don't want to make them feel that you're, you know, saying no or rejecting them or breaking their spirit. So how do you find a way to say no, that you need your time without making them feel rejected? And I guess the same could be the same. It could be the same for adults too.
Yeah. I think it's all in the package, how you package it. You say, okay, mommy played with you, but daddy really misses you. You know, he needs all of this loving, and you know, he's gonna start to get a little jealous if you keep giving it all to me, you know. Or you can come up with some creative way of engaging in a game and go and hide. You know, maybe lock the door in the bathroom. I need privacy. You know how you need privacy? Everybody needs privacy. And just try to, you know, make it light so he doesn't feel rejected. But, you know, you got to slip it in there every so often. You play these games and you get, you know, you try to distract them. Okay, daddy, you know, daddy likes reading you books at night. So he's going to read a book and mommy's going to go, because you need that daddy time to, you know, make it about them. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, daddy, I'm doing daddy a favor. I'm going to go ahead and let him read me a book. So, you know, finding a nice way to package it, you know, so no one feels rejected.
That's really good. I think, you know, for myself as a parent, I'm also thinking about how do we help our children manage this emotionally too. because there's an emotional component for them that that is important for them to navigate this space as well. They're facing some changes, and then they're also changing themselves in the midst of all of this change and shift. How do we help them navigate emotionally and mentally through this? Because this is kind of a, whether, I don't know if it's short term or long term, but it's a new normal for sure.
Yes.
So how do we
And,
help them?
and that's a great question, because fear is it's a human instinctual emotion, and it just means that there is something dangerous out there. But we can change the narrative. We can change how we label the fear, and that really is put upon you two. How you two are getting through this is going to have a ripple effect on them. So if you are saying, let's turn off the TV, there's a lot of stuff going out there, but you know what, you guys are safe, and you package it, you label the fear that way, that's how they will interpret it. But if you're like, oh my God, the world is on fire, they will become more panicked. So it depends on how you are getting through this. So that's why it's important that you guys are communicating, that you guys are sending the same messages out, and that you are in control of your emotional response, because it has a ripple effect on the other generation, the next generation.
Yes, absolutely. I think that in this space as well, when you talk about addressing, helping our children deal with this change, both mentally and emotionally, it's work on, it's work on our part, and work on their part. The other point that really I've been thinking about is we're also, what comes to surface in the midst of this is any vulnerability in your family dynamic, if it's communication or whatever it may be, is definitely coming like to the surface because of just the close proximity now. And we've experienced some of those issues come to surface for us. And one of them has been communication, not as much between my wife and I, but between our children, and how that communication has happened. And we realize that we all are plugged to devices. And some of this at some point gets you to a point where you're like, okay, I've had enough of these devices. And we're facing the challenge trying to break the communication code, is what I'm calling it, so that there's a healthy line of communication amongst our children and us and our children. What are some things we can do from a communication standpoint to improve that or make it better?
I think we struggle with that one as well. Is really how much time is enough time on your devices, and when is it appropriate to have your device out, and when it's not appropriate. So some of the things that I would recommend is just before you implement any change, talk about it first. So rather than just issuing, because if your family has been used to, running in this way, and now, okay, well, because we're quarantined, now you want me to not do these things, it's going to create an additional transition on all the other transitions. So you don't want to overload them too much. So you want to just uh, space it out, talk about it first, and say, okay, listen, I find that, now that we are here together, it's an opportunity for us to really connect. So in order to connect, we have to disconnect, meaning we're going to have some no device time. And you two can kind of huddle as parents and figure out when those are. Are those at mealtime? Is it at devotional time? Like, when are the no device times, implemented, and then how will you hold them accountable for that? Say, okay, remember we just talked about that, offer some grace, because you definitely are changing the structure, and you're renegotiating the boundaries in the home. So you definitely want to offer some grace. They may not like it, they're probably gonna give you some pushback when you implement it, but consistency is key. So if you consistently uh, enforce the no device rule at whatever time you guys decide, then they will understand that, okay, this is the new, I got to get off my device, I got to get off the Xbox, I got to get off the PlayStation, or got to put the phone over here so we can eat dinner and we can talk. But making sure that it's something that you're going to be able to sustain even after you go back to your daily lives. This is going to be the protected time that we, come together as a family, and that we fellowship and connect.
Wow.
Yeah, I think having those set time frames, because sometimes you can say, you know what, no devices, no computers, no phones, but there's no time limit, so they have nothing to look forward to, as far as, well, when is this going to be over? When can I get this device back? And so it's kind of left up in the air. I think putting the boundaries and saying, okay, after this, or being specific, tomorrow at this time you can get it, helps them to learn how to cope with things instead of it just being, open-ended and just there. So they don't know, okay, well, when am I going to get it back? So it brings about, I guess, another level of anxiety. Take it, am I in trouble? And so trying to help to navigate for them, like, this is not a punishment. This is something that is positive. This is something because we want to make our family better. That probably would help, putting that definite time frame or date on there. I would say, so I have some friends where, even as couples, you have one that's an introvert, one that's an extrovert. And so, while to the introvert, like, this is cool, like, I don't have to be around anybody, just, but then to the extrovert, they're like starving. What would you say for a couple that may be, in that mixed group? How would they, how do they support each other during this
That,
time?
and that is a great question. It's just understanding that you two are different. And the things that make introverts introvert is, there are areas in our brain, there's a bundled system in our brain that is more stimulated than others, right? So you don't need as much external stimulation. So that's why introverts are like, okay, I got enough stimulation going on within myself. I don't really need, any of the external. Now, for extroverts, and extroverts make up probably 70% of the population, they're pretty balanced. So they do need a certain level of external stimulation to thrive. But just understanding, and this is for couples, any relationships, that understanding that your reality isn't the same as your partner's reality. And so those are good, healthy emotional boundaries that, being able to look across the aisle and say, okay, they need something different, and trying to be as empathetic as possible. I'm sorry, this is really tough for you. Maybe if you want to connect, you can, find appropriate ways to do so. Maybe you can connect with them via telephone, or write them a letter, or via the video conferencing, but whatever you need to do that. But we're healthy, and just constantly reminding them that they're, not stuck, but healthy at home, and just changing that semantics, because it's a reframing of the whole mindset. When you're feeling like somebody's doing this, so you're more of in the victim stance. But when you're like, I'm healthy at home, it's more of an ownership. This is more of a, okay, this is a great choice for me. So really trying to help them reach out and connect as best as possible, and give them the support that they need.
Okay.
Wow.
Going educational portion. So our oldest, diagnosed with autism. And so while, diagnosed, we are trying to help him navigate through, different things. And usually if someone's diagnosed with autism, there's some comorbidity there where there's something else that's underlying. You may not always know. So he's diagnosed with autism and I've been diagnosed with ADHD. So with that dynamic, you have kind of like two different types of, so me trying to help him is a challenge, within itself, because I'm trying to help him stay on task and on focus when that's, unmedicated, that's a issue for me. Excuse me, 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. So that's an issue for me. So okay, as an individual with ADHD, how do I help and assist someone else, my son, who has learning disabilities and, just different things that he's trouble with, and helping him stay on task when that's a difficulty myself.
And this is where you might activate the team. And so each of you have different strengths and gifts. And if you're finding that you're struggling with one, maybe asking for help, like, hey, I'm really struggling, and, Dr. Culver could give you some pointers, maybe say, okay, well, I'll take, teaching him, and then you can do whatever, or however I don't know the schedules or how you can figure this out, but this is where you kind of understand the strengths and the gifts. Like, think about a basketball team. If you got an objective that you want to accomplish, and you're up against the other team, and you're looking like, okay, that guy has height, I need to put in this person for this. So activating the team, putting in the person who is best able to get the outcome met. Because ultimately, everybody wins when your family's winning. So
Right.
it's like, okay, we need to figure out how we're going to do this.
I think you're muted.
You're muted.
No, sorry. This also forces me to, because we have a dynamic where our oldest son he responds a little bit better to my wife when she's involved with him in anything really outside of sports. And so, it's just kind of like easier because of his response. But what I recognize is that she's managing multiple things, and she's not able to always focus on multiple things at one time effectively. Whereas I do, right? So I recognize just from this space that, okay, I've got to get a little bit more connected and find the vein to communicate with him more effectively, so that we get it done. And it's not me just like, come on, man, why are you getting this done? You know what to do, and so that's what this is like bringing about, right? An awareness of what I need to do more of, and where I need to step in more and relieve her of some of that pressure. And which kind of leads me to a question about the dynamics of people interacting. We talked about the whole, vulnerability in relationships being kind of exposed now as a result of some of this space that we're in. And I've recently read that the numbers even surrounding issues like domestic violence and a lot of tension in the home has gone to all-time high. While that is obviously not our situation, that is a situation of many people. Or if some, not many, but few, there are people out there who are going through that. How do they navigate or deal with this? Because, they had space from, they could go to work or they could go do something else that got them out of that environment. Even I started to really think even about children who've been through or who are experiencing issues like sexual abuse and physical abuse, now then may or may not be in close proximity to their, to the violator. So now there's a lot going on there. And I know we don't have all the time to delve into it, but what are some quick things that can be done to help?
Well, of course, if there's child abuse involved, maybe one parent checking in, noticing any change behaviors of the child. If the child is anxious about taking showers, or starts to demonstrate a uncomfortable response around any adults, you're really looking for those signs of abuse when it relates to child abuse. So I'm going to say that when it relates to domestic violence, really trying to make sure that you have a safety plan in place. Contact a neighbor, maybe come up with a strategy. If I click the light on this many times, call for help. That means I'm in danger. But really coming up with a plan to keep yourself safe and keep distance. If you can avoid any kind of contact, if you understand what the tension points are, trying to keep yourself safe, getting help when you need help. I know we're quarantined, but we're quarantined for your safety. So if you feel unsafe in your home, you have to get out, go to the neighbor's house, get the help that you need. But there are some, for people who don't lie in those those abusive or excessive situations, there's some ways to manage conflict in a family that I think might be helpful to your audience and your viewers. And I want to go through those. Um, it's 5 steps. Very first one is to choose your battles. So not everything will be a level 10. Are there some things that don't require a response? Are there some things that might be annoying that you can just overlook and look the other way? Do you need to address everything? Maybe not, just to keep the peace, so that there isn't tension, making sure you prioritize what you want to discuss. The number 2 is take a break to calm down. A lot of times we get triggered, something happens, so our spouse says something we don't like, and we immediately want to respond. We want to rebut right away. But give yourself some space, because usually when we get angry or frustrated, there's 2 things at play. Either there's a need that isn't being met, or there's a value that isn't being that's being tapped on. So if they cut you off when you're speaking, maybe the value is I'm not being heard, or you're not listening to me, and you get angry by that. So just really giving yourself some space to really sit with your own emotions first, so that you can communicate what it is that you need to address. When you do begin to address, number 3 is focus on the problem, not the person. So sometimes we want to say all the things to hurt the other person. We want to call names. We want to say things that we know will, get at them. So really, I felt this when you did this, focusing on the particular issue at hand. Number 4, which is probably the most important one of this list, is listen to understand and not to win. So a lot of times we stop even listening. The moment someone says something to us, we already thinking, oh no, I'm going to tell them about this. I'm going to tell, no, she didn't. No, she didn't say that to me. And we stopped listening. They could say so many other things, but it went mute. We turned the volume down, and we've already in our mind start thinking about the comeback, or what we're going to say. Oh, I'm going to get them with this one really take them down. So really listening to understand and not to win. Because when you listen to understand, you can start to validate the person's emotions. You can start to hear what the real issues are at hand, rather than becoming defensive about how you want to defend yourself. You can start to hear it from the other side, and that's where real communication happens. And then lastly is compromise. In a room by yourself, you're perfect. Dr. Hover's perfect. You're perfect. I mean, I'm perfect by room by myself. It's only when my kids come in and my husband come in and they want to tell me everything wrong with me. But so when you're doing life with other people, it's in the context of what other people. So it's not just what I think. It's not just Pernella's experience, Pernella's world. It's about doing life with other people. So compromising, okay? Maybe I'm not going to get everything I want, but maybe I can put this non-negotiable here and they can get that one. Okay, it's a win-win for everybody. So it's really, when we compromise, when we communicate, our family runs smoother, our household is more settled, and we can live at peace on purpose, because those are 5 steps. So, you know, we're going to have peace on purpose rather than being reactive and having tension all the time.
Wow.
Hopefully that helps.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for this time that we've had. Those of you who are listening today, I hope that this has added value to you and helps you to process and walk through this time that we're in. I am very grateful. Thank you so much, Pernella, for taking our time to share with us today. And for many of you, I hope that you find, again, this as a valuable resource. Pernella, will you tell us where our listeners can follow you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram at Restorative Family, RESTORATIVE Family. And you can find me on Facebook at Restorative FS. I also have a website, restorativefamilyservices.com, if you're interested in giving us a call for a free 15-minute consultation to see if we're a good fit.
All right. Well, listen, you all go and follow Restorative Family Services. I know that you will get the support that you need, and we're so grateful that we could add value to you in this way. I want to thank my wife for joining for this conversation today, and we are again grateful. Thank you so much. And we want you to take the resources that are housed within the Nathan Culver app, as well as you will see us all over social media. Dr. Nathan Culver on all the social media platforms is where you will find me. And this is Mastery Talks. And so on this platform, we just bring insightful information from people who we consider industry experts to help make someone or something better. And so we're so grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that. Thank you all for joining us today. And we pray that you are blessed and that you go through this season practicing peace. What did you say? Having peace on purpose.
Yes.
So thank you so much for that. And you all have a wonderful, enjoyable day. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.